In Section 17, let's get into those pricing considerations specific to intermodal transportation. Much like ocean freight, intermodal pricing depends on the type of service contracted for. It could be a door-to-door move, meaning from the door of a transload facility to the door of a distribution center, which incorporates origin dray, line haul on the rail, and destination dray. Could be a ramp-to-ramp situation where a shipper is providing their own drayage up to a ramp, as well as drayage from the destination ramp to a site. It could be a door to a destination ramp move where the drayage at destination maybe is being handled by the customer to whom the goods are being shipped. Or could be an origin ramp to a door move. Our analysis is more on that door-to-door that includes origin dray, the rail transportation, and destination dray. A trade tip: from a cost and risk of loss or damage perspective, intermodal shipping terms must be clearly understood between the shipper and consignee, even if the shipper and consignee are the same company. Because many companies, many importers, do essentially ship to themselves. Imports out of Asia, imports out of Europe, into a transload operation, and they ship out to their own DCs. Regardless of who the shipper and consignee is, same company or not, the shipping terms have to be clearly understood. Who's paying for what? Just as important in intermodal as it is in any other mode of transportation. As we've probably figured out, the primary cost components of an intermodal move are the origin and destination dray and the ramp-to-ramp rail transportation, the line haul. Second bullet: usually, pricing is based on the origin-destination locations, the distance between those origin and destination locations, and available rail service, any requirements for interchanges, etc. In general pricing terms, an agreement or quote will always contain a line haul charge for the transportation as well as a fuel surcharge, which should really come as no surprise. In fact, we'll be talking about that more in just a second. A trade tip, and this should come as no surprise either: intermodal transportation is well known for its laundry list of accessorial charges. Let's talk some more about fuel surcharge as it relates to intermodal transportation. And as we note on the right, that's a smaller version of a fuel surcharge table that we'll see a bigger version of in just a bit. In the 21st century world of both domestic and international transportation, we all know this, a fuel surcharge is very common. Fuel surcharge is found in ocean, rail, truck, and air transportation. In the case of ocean freight, fuel surcharge is referred to as a bunker surcharge. We went through that multiple modules ago. To be clear, third bullet, intermodal transportation is definitely subject to a fuel surcharge. In the case of intermodal, fuel surcharge is expressed as a percentage of the line haul charge. We saw this in truck transportation. It's the same thing for intermodal. This percentage is determined by a weekly diesel fuel index that is published by the U.S. Department of Energy, the same fuel index we talked about during our trucking sections. Basically, the higher the price of diesel, the greater the percentage, with a range of price per gallon. Depending on the origin destination, length of haul, and the price of diesel, fuel surcharge can add up to as much as 20% of the line haul charge. These days, it's actually north of 20%, 21, 22, 23. Wrapping up this slide with a trade tip: while difficult to do, fuel surcharge can be negotiated with the carriers, meaning the IMCs. Here is a sample intermodal fuel surcharge schedule that was actually provided by an IMC as part of a quotation. Let's go across the columns and see what we're talking about here. There's that DOE average price per gallon. We saw this during trucking. It's based on a range. Second column, the percentage of the surcharge. And then just increases in price per gallon as we go across. And that third column is essentially between 234 and 238 with a corresponding percentage of 16.5%, all the way up to, and this would be a bad thing, $6.14 to $6.18 for a fuel surcharge of 64%. Whatever range of price the diesel fuel is, the corresponding percentage is going to be multiplied by the line haul rate, and that is the fuel surcharge. Fuel surcharge can be negotiated, pretty tough to do. actually. In this particular case, we note down the bottom, the fuel surcharge will continue to increase by 0.5% for every 4 cent per gallon increase in the cost of diesel fuel. That's important to know too. All of this is based on that DOE, Department of Energy, table. We as importers, we as shippers have to be aware of fuel surcharge and be in a position to negotiate overall pricing with that knowledge. Some pricing considerations to bear in mind. The key to success when negotiating pricing for intermodal services isn't just related to understanding competitive line haul and fuel surcharge market conditions. They're really important, those two things, but that's not the entire story. Not unlike other modes of transportation like ocean freight, port drayage, and domestic trucking, the accessorial charges are as important as the line haul price. Last bullet, depending on the nature of the service and diligence of the shipper, accessorial charges can oftentimes equal or even exceed the line haul and fuel surcharge. Yet another common theme that we've brought up over and over again in our modules. Pricing, as it relates to line haul or main mode of transport versus accessorial charges and knowledge thereof, is essential to running a financially tight ship on an import program. Here is a sample intermodal quotation from an IMC. Let's run through it and see what it says. Looking at our columns, of course, we have a customer number, customer name. We changed it. This is an actual quote. We changed the name to protect the innocent. Origin cities, Carson, California, Union, Missouri, Arvada, Colorado, St. Louis, Missouri. Destination, Louisville, Kentucky, Carson, California. The equipment length, 53-footer. Service level, normal, standard. Mode is IM, that's intermodal. Of course, the rate and a volume commitment on the right-hand side, the number of loads for each service, of which there are 4. 300, 50, 75, and 50. So far, so good there. Let's look at the comments. Listed rates do not include fuel surcharge unless mutually agreed upon prior to this communication and are subject to the FSCs, which are in place at the time of dispatch. The party receiving this quote needs to know that. They need to read the fine print. If they leave off fuel surcharge, their landed cost calculation is going to be wrong. Fuel surcharges are subject to change every Tuesday. That's a Department of Energy thing. Third bullet, they talk about hazmat. This cannot be hazardous materials for this pricing structure. Fourth bullet, and here's the important one. In addition to the quoted rates, shipments are also subject to accessorial, detention, and storage charges. By tendering a shipment to XXX, we X'd out the name of the IMC. You agree to pay any such accessorial, detention, and storage charges applicable to such shipment. XXX's standard accessorial, detention, and storage charges schedule is available upon request. It would be a very good idea for the party receiving this quote to make that request and know what those accessorials are. They can get crazy. That will be that for section 17. When we come back for our last section, it's going to be intermodal transportation, a definition of these accessorial charges. What a way to finish up 10 modules. Come back quickly. We are right there at the finish line.